September 16th, 2025, in the afternoon. I watched this morning, I believe it's about 20 hours old because it was in London. I watched this piece about these riots, these race riots or racist riots in London over the weekend just gone. 100,000 people is a low estimate of the people who showed up. Mostly, they're all draped in Union Jacks and the St. George flag or whatever it is. I don't remember the various flags. And they covered it very extensively, and they had two journalists opining on what was going on and how scary it was. It was the reform, basically the reform movement, a new party that's supposed to, if an election were held today, would probably win. So that's pretty daunting reality. And one of the speakers that they focused on was talking about banning all the other religions except for Jesus, the Jesus religions. And so yeah, we know who those people are. And they were decrying it, and they were calling these people violent, lunatic, thugs, etc., etc., etc. And they are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Then they switched quite quickly to, and without relating the two, to this Paul Ovenden, who has been fired, I believe, by Keir Starmer. He was an advisor to Keir Starmer. He's not an MP, not an elected official, but an advisor to Keir Starmer, because it was discovered that he had sent an email or was tweeting privately with some other people about an evening he spent with with pals, playing games and making fun of Diane Abbott, the black MP, who's been the longest serving black MP in English history. And there have been various other scandals within the Labour Party, the left supposed to be, of massive racism. So anyway, I'm looking at the country of my birth and the society of my birth, and certainly when I was there, it was in the 70s and 80s. It was the racism was powerful, palpable, and why the Tommy Robinson crew are demonstrating and upset and basing their upsetness on race is a thing to investigate. There is this notion that when you're a country like England or France or Denmark or Sweden or wherever, the United States, that if you immigrate there, that you should migrate there, you should assimilate into the language and the culture and the religion of the host country. And of course, people don't do that because people seriously identify themselves with their belief system. I don't. There's a separation for me. I think identity is a hugely significant factor in a dignified human life, and we can get it from all sorts of places. And many millions of people derive that kind of sense of self from their religion, which I think is a great pity, because the monotheisms particularly have nothing to do with the self. The self is a dirty, nasty thing that the monotheisms are there to correct. That's what their teaching is all about. So that you become, you obey, you surrender to, you obey, you fear, and all the rest of it. But that's not really what this is about. Or it might be what this is about, because it's a problem. It's a problem for me. Obviously, it's not a problem for Tommy Robinson and his group. He's going to say that things are going wrong in England because of these people, these immigrants, these Muslims, these Hindus, these would have been Jews for the longest time in Britain, trust me, and the rest of Europe. So that's their problem, is that this is the cause of what is wrong in their world. And then those religions reciprocate. And they say, well, the problem in the world is this. The dominant civilization in the part of the world that I live in, I don't live in Kazakhstan or China, is the Christian, Judeo-Christian civilization. And universally, when things go wrong in the world, particularly over the last 500 years, I think it was bad before that, but people couldn't travel as well as they did after 1492. You couldn't, the Crusades and stuff like that. But there is a demonization of the other. As far as the Christian community was concerned, Africa was full of non-believers and pagans, and they also looked very different to the rest of us, and they had a very different cultural development. The native peoples of the Americas, who have been developing as long as Christendom, the same period of time, had obviously come up with very, very different solutions. So monotheism decides at some point that everybody else is wrong, and even within monotheism, there's a great deal of sectarianism. So if you're a Christian, the Muslims are wrong and the Jews are wrong for the longest time, and suddenly maybe Christendom has found itself guilty of anti-Semitism and is now repenting by supporting Israel against the third monotheism. And you look at it and you go, well, there's no solutions in any of this, because all I'm hearing from Parliament, from the halls of government in England, all the way down to the whoever the community is that is following reform and Tommy Robinson and stuff like that, I'm hearing the cry that the problem is the other. And that seems, and there are variations on that theme. There's one finds that there's just a different type of racism amongst the highly educated, highly sophisticated people. And it all really boils down to the notion that the way I live, my belief system, my civilization, my quote-unquote democracy, my capitalism, the Western world, the United States, the world leader, the moral leader of the world, is an imperative, is so very, very important to us what lives there. So that you've got lefties and Democrats demonizing the people who vote Republican in the way that white people demonized black people for hundreds of years and still do. So I mean, I'm not. I have as much objection to this 100,000 people as anybody. I would like to just know why, because we're all human beings and there is a great commonality amongst us. And obviously, a lot of talking needs to be done soon.